this episode. I need some damn toilet paper. Welcome to the studio. Enjoy your stay. Imagine this, you're an indie game developer trying his best to make a unique game that all people can enjoy and love. You fail multiple times, so much so that you might even be able to not make another game again. But somehow, when all hope seems lost, you create an amazing game that kids and adults both love to their fullest extent. The game sells an abundance of plushies, costumes, and various versions of itself across social media. Something new, something that's never been seen before. Although maybe it's something that went too far for the price of greed. This is the real problems with FNAF, or otherwise known as Five Nights at Freddy's. Join me on this journey. This is Buff Ben. Remember to like and subscribe, and here we go. Our journey starts off on August 8th of 2014. The first ever release into the franchise FNAF 1. It was both fun, scary, and mysterious all at the same time, introducing a relatable childhood fear of animatronics while also introducing little pieces of Easter eggs and lore that both kids and adults could find answers to. This was never done before. It truly felt like you were under the weight of suspense, as the animatronics could attack you at any given moment, especially since the nights were more devastating than the last. It provided a fun, changing, and challenging aspect of games which we've never seen before. There were no problems on this release, only something unique which made families and friends both cower in fear at. This should have meant great things for this franchise again in the future, but something that comes up always comes down. Our journey continues on November 10th, 2014, the second release into the franchise FNAF 2. Barely 3 months after the first installment, you could clearly see that someone was hungry for more money. Anyways, FNAF 2 was arguably even better than FNAF 1, introducing a new mechanic of having no doors and more animatronics into the equation. This made gamers even more defenseless than they were before, all while having the classic jump scares FNAF 1 was known for. It also brought up another very well-known aspect of FNAF, the death minigames. Although it's a small detail, many fans, including myself, enjoyed these minigames as they made it seem like you were playing an arcade game just like you would back in the day. It also gave us further insight into what Scott Cawthon was trying to tell us, while also making us piece it together without actually telling us. FNAF 2 was truly amazing and personally my favorite FNAF game out of all in the franchise. But this is when the bridge starts to collapse. The first sign of the fall was on March 2nd, 2015, the third release into the franchise FNAF 3. FNAF 3 wasn't necessarily a bad game, but in the view of the fanbase, this was not acceptable. FNAF 3 is often regarded as the worst game out of all 4 of the old FNAF games in the franchise. It only had one animatronic, making it feel less suspenseful, and had complicated controls which took a while to get used to for most players. This game was supposed to be the end of FNAF, but it was so bad that they decided to make a 4th game to redeem themselves. Although FNAF 3 had Easter eggs and stayed loyal to the regular feeling of Five Nights at Freddy's, it wasn't the same game everyone liked or wanted. This was a slight but noticeable change in what was to come in the future for the franchise, and undeniably may have hinted at its downfall. The next game of the journey begins on July 23rd, 2015, the 4th release into the franchise FNAF 4. Unlike FNAF 3, FNAF 4 seemed like a well thought out concept, and the majority of fans enjoyed its release. The feeling of being defenseless came back as you play a child who was facing even scarier animatronics than before, and the minigames also made a nice return. This is also the first time ever FNAF introduced a Halloween edition update, which sparked the game into social media even more. FNAF 4 even introduced more nights, making the game more challenging than ever before. FNAF 4 also made it feel like FNAF 3 was just a fluke. Or was it? This is one of the most important chapters in all of the franchise, the forgotten game, FNAF World. Although Scott Cawthon hated this game, the balance in the community was unsure how it felt about it. FNAF World was absolutely, completely different from all the other games before it, introducing a third-person moving game into an arcade-like genre. Many people say that FNAF World isn't canon, but there were clear implications that it was somehow supposed to be important, and maybe it still is. It is undeniable that it was a clear mistake, since if Scott Cawthon created it, and hated it, then that should mean that it wasn't a game that he was fully acceptable of.
Five Nights at Freddy's World. The reason I'm not playing that is because when I first saw the game, it didn't appeal to me. And a lot of people were demanding that I play Five Nights at Freddy's World, but to be honest, it didn't seem like a game that I wanted to play, so I felt absolutely no obligation to play it. So I kind of skipped it over, and I'm kind of glad that I did, because it was apparently really buggy on launch and didn't have a lot of features that a normal RPG should have had.
Overall, FNAF World is a picky topic, and many players are still confused to this day if it still means anything. Undeniably though, FNAF World is a mistake, and this is a very huge part of the story where things start going sideways. In this section, the games start gradually becoming less and less like the FNAF we know and try to branch off into something bigger. It's not like it's a problem, but now this questions, what even is FNAF anymore? It was simple, survive 5 nights and you might make it, but things start to change now. The 6th or 5th game in the series, depending on how you look at it, is Sister Location. Sister Location was a beloved game by fans, and although it was technically 5 nights, it had a cool concept of being a technician working in an abandoned pizzeria. The animatronics were just as scary as before, and it was the most lore-packed game in the franchise ever. This wasn't a bad change, but it set the tone for the pattern for the future of FNAF. Two games will be covered here. The 6th game in the franchise is Pizzeria Simulator. The whole point of this game was to give more clues into the lore of FNAF. It was also free of charge, clearly showing that it was a gift to the fans of the game. It also stayed loyal to the original concept of the game, actually having 5 nights before it ends. The 7th game in the franchise was Ultimate Customite. This was one of the best FNAF games to ever come out, as many people in the community wanted an even more challenging game. Customite let you choose your difficulty and had the most animatronics out of all other games in this series this far. These two games were the last we got to see from the original concept of FNAF before it all turned into what it is today. These last few games are the most present to come out and are what people know FNAF as it is now today. Let's start off with Security Breach. This was by far the worst FNAF game ever made. It was buggy, clearly unfinished, and was the most priciest FNAF game to come out thus far. Its story seemed incomplete and made the lore completely confusing. This was the actual starting point, where everyone had no idea what the story was about anymore, but there is light in the darkness. The game that everyone loved, FNAF Help Wanted. Although it had a sequel which was named FNAF Help Wanted 2, the game just didn't capture FNAF as good as the original did. FNAF Wanted was fun, included all of the original FNAF games, and it was the first time FNAF was ever brought into the VR. It was different, but it was the good type of difference that everyone wanted, staying loyal to the original games but in a different way we've never seen before. But now, here we are in present day. The most recent FNAF game to come out is FNAF Secret of the Mimic. In short form, this game makes no sense. I'm sorry, but this is just a copy and pasted version of Poppy Playtime, but worse. This game is not FNAF and shows how FNAF isn't even FNAF anymore. The lore is driven all over the place at this point. There are no minigames or a straightforward path to solve these things. It's just a sloppy mess. I know this is subjective, but did we even really need to know more about the past of FNAF? I feel like after so long, the story should be solvable by now, but this goes on to what I was saying about greed before. It's not the fact that FNAF won't be solved, it's just the fact that it can't be solved. No matter how much games they release, FNAF will never end, and that's just the sad part. At this point, this is the 11th installment of FNAF, the 11th. How can the story not be solved at this point? I know people love it, and I love it, but sometimes things truly should end. There were a couple of games I forgot to put in here, but they were either not canon or not that really important. The first is Special Delivery, which was the mobile game that came out before Security Breach. Sorry, but in my opinion, it just didn't seem that useful to the games, which is why it wasn't added. The last one is Freddy in Space, and I don't really even need to explain why this isn't in here. Obviously, it was just, a fan game. It was just like, oh, I'll just release it. Doesn't have any important lore pieces. It's just a fun game that Scott Cawthon just put out there. Overall, what did we learn? Simply, it's just that FNAF has fallen off since it's not even FNAF anymore. Anyways, guys, that is the end of the video. Remember to like and subscribe. It helps out the channel a lot. And I will see you in the next video. I'll see ya.
Luces bajas, nadie fala. Tus ojos gritan lo que tu boca cala. Silencio tan